Yeah, obviously big game this week. Western Michigan's playing good football right now, won 4 in a row after an opening loss to Michigan. Obviously went on the road last week to get the MAC season kicked off. Big win at Buffalo. Came from behind in the fourth quarter and really had a great finish to the game there. Obviously a lot of respect for Coach Lester and the job that he's done there at his alma mater. We've had some battles with them the last 3 years, especially, and so it'll be a great challenge for us going on the road. And obviously, all starts with having a great week of preparation here.
I think from the offensive line perspective, I mean, you guys have used a bunch of different kind of combinations this year. I mean, for the most part, they've all done pretty well, especially last week, giving Drew time. I mean, how impressive, different guys being able to step up in that group and play at a high level.
Yeah, going into the season, one of the strengths we felt really good about offensively was our depth on the offensive line. Certainly didn't know that it would be challenged, the way that it has been so far, but really credit Coach Johnson for doing a great job of getting those guys prepared. And even before that, Coach Armour, when a lot of these guys showed up and certainly weren't a finished product yet, he's done a great job of getting those guys developed in the weight room, putting weight on the right way, getting them stronger. And obviously, Coach Johnson always does a great job when the opportunity presents itself of moving guys around, whether it's in spring practice, moving them around to different positions, cross-training them in fall camp. And, credit to those guys because we've asked, several guys to play different positions here on the offensive line through the first 5 games. And for those guys to be able to step in and perform the way they have is certainly, a great job by those guys and proud of them because, obviously, there are certain times when, you might be playing right tackle in the case of Corey Stewart, and then we had to move him over to left, and he really did a nice job with that. And Anthony Todd moving from center to guard, and Damon's played both guard and tackle so far, early in his career here. And, Porter Hott's trained a lot at tackle, and now he's playing some at guard. So I really, credit to those guys for just being bought in and Coach Johnson for doing a great job.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side, I mean, defensively, you've seen a number of different guys
Absolutely
make their name known this year. I mean, Tavion throughout the first couple of weeks, Clayton, Cole, Trent Hatfield had an interception as well. I mean, you figure some of those guys are going to kind of make their name known, but how nice is seeing them kind of progress.
It is awesome. You always preach about the next man up and being ready to go when your number is called. And, in the case of a guy like Cole Pierce this last weekend, he was, obviously asked to be in a different role and to increase his reps more than he's gotten for the first time on the defensive side of the ball. And to see him step in and do what he did, you go back and watch film, it's like, wow, that was awesome. He would play after play, and he was all over the place and making tackles. And, he was ready, and you could tell just the way he played the game with confidence. And you mentioned the guys up front and Tavion and coming in and doing what he's done so far this year. And credit to him for his work ethic in the weight room back in the day, and credit to him for his work ethic on the scout team, and Clayton Call for, being patient. And he's playing behind Brandon Martin and Jay Thomas at inside backer. And now all of a sudden you can just see his confidence grow every single game. And so it's awesome. That's what you try to preach to guys, being ready when your number's called. Injuries are part of our game. It's been awesome to see several guys, as you mentioned, in all phases really have stepped up and done a nice job.
And then obviously you mentioned Cole, and we saw the video on Sunday with him getting a scholarship. I mean, how cool of a moment is that every time you kind of get the opportunity to do that?
And it's so awesome to be able to see a young man earn a scholarship like that. And I want to make sure I capitalize and enunciate the word earn. He earned it through everything he's done. It starts with the classroom. It starts with accountability. You can always count on him. He's always where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. He handles business in the classroom. He's got a 3.5 overall GPA. I mean, he's taking care of business that way. And then every day he's fighting, he's scratching, he's clawing to try to make sure he's giving his best to his teammates. And whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And even back on the scout team. And just, it's so awesome to be able to see that. And I wish it wasn't, I love to be able to when a guy has an opportunity to do that and you make the announcement like that, then I can't wait for it to step back and just see him celebrate with his teammates. Because those are the guys that he's in the foxhole with, for lack of a better word. He's in the locker room with them. He's, over on campus, and just to see those guys celebrate together, it gives me chills every single time.
For sure. And then I think going back to kind of the offensive side, I think last week was kind of the first time, different guys were consistently involved. I mean, Johan was involved, Jay Sean obviously off the bat, and Justin kind of does what he does. How important is that to be able to share the ball, to have success on the offensive?
No doubt. Obviously we're much more effective when we can get several guys involved. And it was great to see all those guys, early in the game have touches and have big plays and, critical moments in the game when they delivered when their number was called. And it's awesome. Obviously, we got to keep building on that. That was great confidence building game for us in terms of that way. But we just got to keep going. And, obviously, I know what that can do for from a confidence standpoint for a player, but I also know what it can do from a confidence standpoint as an offense. And I just got to keep building on that.
Sure. And then kind of injury wise, kind of saw Brandon looked kind of spry on there. I think he was jumping around a couple of times. How is he kind of progressing, and how is Caleb and Curtis too?
Yeah, I think we're getting closer. Obviously, with Brandon, it'll still be probably tough to think that this week is a possibility for Brandon, but certainly in Curtis's case, certainly in Caleb Slavin's case, both those guys are real possibilities for this week. So I'm excited about that. It's good to see him back out there on the practice field. Curtis was in pads today and limited. Caleb, we anticipate being able to get him back out there again on the practice field tomorrow. So, it'll be certainly, a likely scenario where we could see those guys this weekend, which would be great.
Sure. And then I guess last thing for me, I mean, just in terms of the big picture and your guys' goals, I mean, how big of a week is this, facing off against Western Michigan?
It's MAC West, and obviously they got off to a big win last week. This will be their first game in the MAC West, if you will. They played against Buffalo, which is in the East, and obviously we lost our first West opponent, first game in the West against Toledo. So it's huge. Obviously, it speaks for itself. I think our players all know that without having to address it in the meeting or anything like that. Everybody knows what's at stake, and it's no different than every single week what our attitude, what our mindset was a year ago. Every week is a championship game, and our guys know that the mindset. Our guys know that what we put on the practice field and having a great week of preparation and being right mentally the second you walk in the door in the morning, and making sure you're locked in meetings, making sure you're locked in on the practice field. That'll determine the level of play that we put on the field on Saturday.
We'll go to the chat for any questions.
Hey, Mike. I want to pull on some threads there if I can.
Hold on 1 second, I can't hear you there.
You got me now?
Gotcha.
Okay. Want to pull on some threads from some of the other answers if I can. On the offensive line, I know some of it's out of necessity a little bit, but you've had a really good history in your tenure of like freshmen and redshirt freshmen playing very well at a very difficult position. What do you think has led to those guys being able to adapt that early in their career, and particularly with a guy like Corey to be able to step in at multiple spots on the line 9 games into his career into a starting role?
Yeah, I wish I would have captured it on video from the time a guy like Corey Stewart arrived here, and how hard he worked just during the summer, during some of the running. And obviously when you come into college, you're kind of in shock by how fast the game is. You're kind of in shock by how hard the workouts are. So, his first introduction to college football was during those summer workouts when he showed up here, and they were tough, and he was getting his butt kicked, but he just kept going. His mental toughness early on when he first got here, I think you could see that, yes, he knew how challenging it was, but man, you could see his attitude, his never say die attitude. I'm not going to quit. You could see that early on. And then, Coach Armour working with him as long as he's worked with him in the weight room. And then Coach Johnson, even when he was in developmental lifts, which really just means that you're not involved so much in the game plan meetings. When the season starts, you're more involved in developmental lifts. And then you really come out to the practice field for the first time and work on the scout team. And so I wish I would have captured that on video, because Corey, and it was said many times around here by Ben Armour, by Colin Johnson, that Corey's worked as hard as anybody in our program, and he's improved as much as anybody in our program. So just to see him take the field and Coach Johnson build his confidence up, and him, obviously take it on the chin a little bit when he was running it on scout team, left tackle a year ago, and all those moments, all those reps that he took, all those have paid off, and it's good to see him just be ready. And it's great, obviously for Coach Johnson, it speaks to his work ethic, speaks to his development skills in that offensive line room, and certainly speaks to Ben Armour, our strength and conditioning staff's development skills. And, that's what I mean. Injuries happen. And obviously we felt very strongly about our depth on the O-line way back, going into the year.
One more thing on Cole as well. We've talked a lot about him, but and I know when he played at Penn State, it was more later in that game. Didn't play a ton of defensive snaps the 2 weeks after that. What was it about this past week that said, all right, we're going to put Cole in this spot, and a really big spot where he'd be playing a ton, that gave him the ability to go out and made the impact that he made?
Yeah, and I think the scheme, obviously, the option attack by Army, because if you look and you go back and you watch the snaps, you had Jay Thomas, you had Clayton Call, and Cole Pierce, all three of those guys on the field for a significant number of snaps during the game, and all three of those guys are really inside backers. Normally, just from a structure standpoint, and what you see with spread offenses and all those things, you typically don't have three inside linebackers on the field, but with the package that Coach Stockton put together for that game and the personnel group that we had on the field defensively, I just think, that the opportunity presented itself, the body of work that Cole had put into that point, the trust factor that Coach Stockton had in him, all those things went into play in that decision. And it was great to see him, be so locked in and so focused during the week of preparation, and then carry that over to the field. And I mean it, when you go back and watch the tape, it's awesome. It's even better watching his performance the second time around than it was, being down there for it on field level during the game.
Coach, we have another question coming in. How important is it to get first downs and maintain drives and keep the ball with Western Michigan controlling the time possession?
Yeah, obviously similar type of theme, if you will, from a week ago. Army's number one in the country in time of possession. Western Michigan's number two at just over 37 minutes. And so you got to make sure that you do a great job of sustaining your drives and putting points on the board, obviously, offensively, because, they have in a different type of scheme, obviously, than what you saw a week ago. They have a scan procedure where they look to the sideline. They obviously go to the ball, but then they chew up a lot of the play clock, if you will, and they utilize that whole play clock looking to the sideline to get the call before they snap the ball. And so it's important on our end, obviously, to be able to execute no different than it was a week ago. You got to maximize your possessions. You got to make sure that you sustain drives, and you got to make sure that you put the ball in the end zone.
And lastly, the importance of creating turnovers. The quarterback doesn't have any interceptions on the year. Yeah,
the one thing that's really important, if you look at it for them, they're fifth in the country right now in turnover margin. They've forced 11 turnovers. You already talked about the quarterback, but they've only turned the ball over 2 times, which is second in the nation. And so they've done a good job taking care of the ball. That's, obviously, we know how important that is, because that happened for us, the last 2 years being number one in turnover margin. So that's important when you're not turning the ball over and you're not, giving up an extra possession. Certainly that's important. That's something that we work tirelessly on, as much as you can work on it without being in a game action. We work on a turnover circuit every day, if you will. And but that's the decision making of the quarterback. Ellaby has been awesome. When you have 0 interceptions through 5 games, that's awesome. That speaks for itself. It speaks in terms of his decision making, putting the ball where it needs to be, and it speaks to those guys giving him a clean pocket to operate.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go ahead and open it up for questions for Will Jones.
I guess, to start off, the offense kind of message for the first month was like, we just want to get started off faster. Obviously, Justin does what he does, but then you guys come on the first 2 drives and score. Can you describe what that was like? Was it just kind of like a sense of relief? It's like, hey, we're putting something together right off the bat.
Oh yeah, and especially with Army, we knew that we needed to have a good start because of their offense and how much they hold the ball. So yeah, going up 21-0, that was a big confidence booster for us, and just felt like everything started to click a little bit. Drew hit some really good passes. Jay Sean ran really good routes. All the receivers ran really good routes all day. So, and our O-line, I thought they did a really good job protecting Drew, and yeah, we did a good job.
And then, I mean, from the receiver side, how important is it to get different guys involved? Because, I feel like Justin's kind of been doing his thing, but I feel like Jay Sean and Johannes were both big pieces. I mean, how big is it to kind of share the ball in order to do what you guys want to do offensively?
Yeah, it's big. I feel like we have a lot of weapons on our team, and getting those guys involved just shows how deep we are at receiver. And, we've worked hard all off season. All the guys really have, all the receivers just getting better. And, we're so versatile on the edges and the perimeter. So we'll just keep that going and see who else, comes out.
Sure. And then from the offensive line standpoint, I know you guys have there's been guys kind of moving around. As a running back, what does that do for you? And just, is it different, seeing kind of a different unit almost every week?
Yeah, but I trust all our guys. I have the utmost confidence in them. They all work hard, and they've all worked hard, to get where they are now. So, I don't really think about it too much. I trust them. I think they're doing a great job, and they're getting better each week in practice. And that's what we're emphasizing. Work on what we've done wrong in the games. Whether it's if I've missed a cut or a hole or whatever. So we're just trying to get better each week, and just we got to continue to get closer with each other too. The newer guys that are there, I haven't played with much, but I have the most confidence in them. So,
and then I guess just from a confidence aspect, for weeks, you guys said confidence hasn't wavered, but to be able to do what you did on Saturday and being unbeaten on the team, what does that do for the confidence of this team as you head into the rest of your next schedule?
Yeah, I think it does a lot. This is definitely the best game we've played all year. I don't think we played a very good game opening up with Western, or we've had a few little bit of pretend see what we were going to be, but putting it all together in the game against Army, that's going to boost us into next week against Western. I just feel like we got to keep getting better in practice. I thought we had a good practice here on Tuesday, and just continue to build and work on our weaknesses and build on our strengths. So,
and then obviously you get a Western team, another one that's always kind of near the top of the West standings. What's the mentality like coming into this week, knowing that just like Toledo, it's another really big conference game for you guys?
Yeah, Western, they're fun to play. I think they play hard. Last year, it was a fun game. Last year was a really fun game, probably the most fun I've had playing football. So I'm ready to get back to that. I'm ready to play them again. And I'm ready to go. I think they're a good team, and it'll be a good opportunity for us. So,
Questions from the chat?
Hey, Will, just from a run game perspective, I guess where do you feel you guys are at in that aspect of things, and where do you want to most improve in that area?
Run game wise, I feel like, we got to get better. And that starts with me. I've missed some cuts. I've missed some holes for here and there. And, I just me and Carson, we got to continue to have confidence in ourselves. And that's one thing we talk about, maybe we didn't have the game we wanted to have, but whatever we can do to help the team win. And we know that. And, we just got to continue to get hard yards. And we got to, try to bust one open from time to time, because it's definitely there, and we're really close in doing so. So,
is some of it a patience thing in regard, like when you talk about cuts and holes? Is some of that waiting for the right one to open up and making those reads? Or kind of walk me through the psychology of that.
Yeah, mentally, I would just say, for me, it helps when I get in a groove throughout the game. I feel like once you get in a groove, you start to see the flow of the defense better, and you can make your cuts a lot easier. But in the past couple games, I feel like I really haven't gotten that groove yet. And that's something I've been working on in practice, trying to figure out where my eye should be pre-snap and, just work on that. So, yeah, patience though plays a lot of big role, especially with some of the new guys that we have on the O-line. It's important because everybody's different, so just find out what works best and kind of just build off that. So.
Any more questions, Will? All right.
Thank you.
For JT.
I guess first off, take me through the targeting call at the beginning of the game. What's kind of going through your head as you're kind of pondering what's going to be the outcome of that?
I was hoping it wasn't a target. Yeah, I didn't feel like it was, but it was up to them. But I'm glad it turned out the way it did.
Obviously, it was a physical game across the board. I mean, what does a game like that say about this defense? Because I feel like you could name probably a dozen guys who made tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, what does it say about just you guys as a unit as a whole?
We're physical. It just shows that when we have a job, a task to do, we can get it done.
What are you guys trying to? Obviously, schematically, it's not going to be the same. No one runs what Army runs, but what are you guys hoping to carry over from last week into this week against Western?
The refuse to lose attitude and same just attention to detail and just doing our job. That's the same approach we have for Army. So
I guess just as a whole, knowing how big the game this is for you guys and your goals. I mean, what's the mentality like this week?
Just do our job. Same as last week. Try to treat every week the same way. So yeah.
And then I think on Sunday it was a cool moment with one of your teammates, obviously with Cole Pierce getting the scholarship. How long have you known Cole? And how cool is that to see him? Because I feel like everyone has said, in practice, he's kind of the guy who's always there, always doing the right thing. I mean, how cool of a moment was that for him?
Very cool. It's just hard work. He earned it. So like he said, it's just hard work, and he just definitely earned it.
We'll get questions from the chat.
JT, on the targeting thing, how hard is that as a defensive back nowadays? Like, not to make it like a grievance thing here, but like, how difficult is it to tackle when you're going to make a huge play like that? And like, in the back of your mind, is there always like, I hope they don't throw a flag and throw me out of a game?
Yeah, of course. It's just like you said, just hope they didn't throw me out. But it was just a bang play. I think just coming down, just playing football.
But I mean, like, do you have to think about that in terms of the way you tackle nowadays? Does it make it harder that way, or is it one of those things where you play free and hope that you don't wind up in a bad spot?
Yeah, just along the course. I mean, we practice just the correct way to tackle.
Right.
And in the course of the game, things happen. So I was just hoping that it didn't end up that way.
Western Michigan this week obviously doesn't turn the football over a ton. They did not turn the football over almost at all last year. I think Caleb Ellaby had one interception or no interceptions heading into the game against you guys, and then you forced a couple of them, including an interception. What did you guys do last year to put them into a situation to turn the ball over, and how do you replicate that this year when nobody else has?
Just doing our job, just trying to get pressure on them, and just like I said, just do our job, stay on our mans, and read our keys.
All right, everybody good? All right, thank you, JT.
Appreciate it.